Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Susan Gregg Gilmore, author of Looking for Salvation at the Dairy Queen. And I thought, since I am here in South Carolina at a SEBA conference among a lot of book lovers, that I ought to come clean and be real honest about my motivation to write Looking for Salvation at the Dairy Queen, because I did not major in English. I only took one English class, never took a creative writing class, never went to a writing workshop, and have never written a short story. But in fact, Dairy Queen was the first fiction that I'd ever written. And I always feel like I need to come clean about that. But I was a journalist, so I came to writing really from the workhorse tradition. And I was on staff at a newspaper, and then I freelanced when my kids were little, primarily for the LA Times and the Christian Science Monitor, parenting magazine. And one day, after working 3 months on an in-depth piece for one of the newspapers, I was paid so little that my husband said, don't even calculate what your hourly rate was, because you probably will end up owing the newspaper money. So I decided at that point, we're living in LA, that I would write a screenplay, because if you're not acting in LA, you're writing a screenplay. And since the pediatrician, the people at the grocery store, the postman, everybody's writing a screenplay, I figure I can do this too. So I bought a book on how to write a screenplay and realized very quickly I have no idea how to write a screenplay. And then I tried writing the treatment for a screenplay, and that didn't really pan out either. And then a neighbor of mine, who I think thought I was probably going to start begging him for a job at his production company, suggested that I write a book. And I think he thought if I was busy doing that, I wouldn't be bothering him. And I really went into it kicking and screaming and thought, okay, fine. I'm going to write 50 pages. That's it. And then we're going to reevaluate, how me, feel about this. And 50 pages into it, I was totally hooked. I loved writing. For the first time in my life, I was absolutely passionate about writing, and I loved the people that were dancing in my head every day. And it took a little more than a year, and in that process, I realized that this was what I was meant to do, and I wanted to do it for the rest of my life, and it didn't matter if it was published or not, that the important part of this journey was just telling this story. And I was so shocked that the day that I was finished, I thought it would be the greatest day of my life, and that moment lasted for about 15 seconds, and then I became very sad, because I didn't realize at first, but what was happening was I was just homesick, terribly homesick for these people that I had spent, now almost a year and a half of my life with. And I think that was probably the great sign for me that I really was doing what I was meant to do.